You're not listening, Daniel, Melissa said, slamming the sponge into the sink like it had personally offended her. This isn't the 1950s. I'm not your mate. I blinked. I just walked in from work, tie still loose, laptop bag barely set down, when she launched into her new declaration of war. And you're not working, I said carefully, trying to match her tone without igniting the whole room. So how is splitting chores 50-50 fair, when I'm gone 10 hours a day? That was all it took. The air snapped. Her eyes, usually calm hazel, flared. Oh, so now I'm a freeloader. Is that it? No, I said, exhaling. I'm just saying this sudden list of house rules you wrote up and stuck to the fridge like some corporate memo. It feels less like teamwork and more like punishment. You don't get to dictate how I feel about equality, she shot back. I'm tired of picking up your slack and pretending it's love. That line, that rehearsed, venom-laced line, it hit harder than I expected. The kitchen that once smelled like cinnamon and late-night wine now reeked of resentment. Plates were set but untouched on the table. Chicken was getting cold. So was I. Is this about the dishes? I asked. Or are you still mad I said no to that weekend with Kara and Justine? Her silence told me everything. Of course. Kara and Justine, Melissa's twin apostles of bitterness. Both recently divorced. Both loudly allergic to compromise. Women who treated relationships like starter homes. Fine, until something flashier came along. I won't be controlled, Melissa hissed. Not by you. Not by anyone. I leaned against the fridge, trying to steady my breath. No one's trying to control you. I'm just asking for balance. Respect. She scoffed. Respect? You mean obedience? Same thing in your world, right? And with that, we both stopped pretending this was about chores. We circled each other with words that weren't new. But tonight they cut differently. Deeper. Years of micro-disappointment spilled out in messy, shouted fragments. The vase of our marriage, once sturdy, even if dusty, cracked from the inside. We didn't eat dinner. We didn't speak again. Just turned off lights and drifted to opposite ends of the bed like survivors of a wrecked ship, still dripping from the argument. But even in the silence, I heard it. Something had shifted. Not bent. Broken. And I knew. This wasn't just one bad night. It was the first night of something else entirely. The next evening, I came home to the sound of laughter. Sharp, overlapping, the kind that's just a little too performative. Kara and Justine. I paused at the front door longer than I should have. My key was still in the lock. My fingers curled around it like it might help me brace for whatever version of Melissa was waiting inside. Inside, they were parked on the living room couch like they owned the place. Kara, with her dramatic black nails and oversized wine glass, was holding court. Justine, wrapped in a silk robe she wore like it was armor, kept nodding at every comment like a backup dancer. Melissa sat between them, hair down, makeup done, not the quiet tension from last night. No. This was her public face. All light. All charm. I told him if he wanted a live-in maid, he better start paying me a salary, Melissa said, drawing out the last word for effect. The laughter exploded again. Kara clapped her hands. God. You're brutal. No. Justine added. She's just finally waking up. Right, Mel? You don't owe a man your piece just because he pays the mortgage. I walked in just as Kara mimicked my voice. Deep and cartoonishly slow. But sweetie, I work all day. Why don't you do all the laundry? More laughter. I set my bag down carefully, like anything louder might betray how fast my heart was hammering. Melissa noticed me then. She didn't flinch, just gave me this unreadable half-smile. Hey. You're home early. Yeah. Long day. I said, hanging up my coat. I didn't realize we were hosting tonight. We're not hosting. Kara said before Melissa could respond, we're saving a woman. From what? I asked, my tone like ice behind a polite smile. The burden of folding towels. They exchanged glances. Justine took a long sip from her glass and then leaned back, stretching like a cat. No, sweetie. From being married to a dad in a husband costume. That line hit harder than I expected. Not because it was clever, but because it was rehearsed. I stood there for a moment, watching all three of them, glowing in the artificial warmth of their own echo chamber. Three women who had mistaken sarcasm for strength. Bitterness for independence. I see, I said. Well, if Melissa agrees with that, then I think this marriage is over. Their laughter stopped. Melissa blinked. Wait, what? I took a breath that tasted like finality. If I'm some overbearing caricature to you and your friends, then we don't have a marriage anymore. We have a PR disaster in our living room. Kara stood, eyes narrowing. Daniel, don't be dramatic. We were joking. No. I cut in, looking only at Melissa now. They were joking. You were laughing. Melissa's mouth opened, then closed. I nodded, slow and quiet. I'll grab a few things. Troy's got a spare room. She sat frozen as I walked past them, but I caught Kara's smirk as I turned the hallway. That same condescending smile Melissa wore when she talked about my schedule. 5 minutes later, I walked out with my duffel bag. Melissa stood now, arms crossed, lips trembling, but still not speaking. At the door, I paused. You can all enjoy your jokes, I said, but don't be surprised when the punchline walks out. And then I left. That night, I crashed on Troy's couch, half asleep, half broken, but oddly weightless. Because when a man walks out, not in anger, but in clarity, that's not weakness, that's liberation. Troy's apartment was a modest 2-bedroom, just off 6th Street. Faded couch, TV mounted slightly crooked, and the constant scent of microwave burritos. But it was quiet. No sharp sighs across the room. No passive-aggressive clanging of dishes. No tension curled up on the couch, like a third presence in the room. Just peace. That first morning, I made eggs. For myself. No one to ask how I wanted them. No sarcastic comments about cholesterol. Just scrambled eggs, a mug of black coffee, and basketball highlights humming low in the background. I hadn't realized how much silence I'd been missing. Later that afternoon, I opened my phone to a dozen unread texts. Melissa, you left. Seriously. We need to talk. This isn't how adults handle conflict. I was venting. They were jokes. You can't seriously think that's grounds for walking out. The next few read differently. I just wanted us to evolve. I miss who we were before the resentment. Maybe I said too much. But you didn't have to make it public by storming out like that. Nowhere in any of them was the word I needed. Sorry. Not once. That night, Troy handed me a beer and flipped on the game. You're oddly calm for a guy who just blew up his marriage. I shrugged. I think the blow-up started long before I packed a bag. He raised a brow. So what now? Now. I said, taking a sip. Now I breathe. Melissa kept texting every day, and I kept replying, with facts, not feelings. Polite. Brief. Detached. Yes, I'm okay. No. I'm not ready to talk. Let's give each other space. Each message from her had a layer of guilt painted thinly over manipulation. Emotional nudges designed to pull me back in without changing a thing. I'd seen this script. The emotional bait and switch. But the difference now? I wasn't biting. I slept better than I had in months. There was no one kicking off blankets at 2 a.m. No one sighing dramatically if I rolled over too loud. No voice critiquing the way I breathed when I was stressed. Just me. And it was enough. Funny thing about space, it lets you hear your own thoughts again. And mine were starting to sound like truth. She wanted evolution, but she meant obedience. She missed who we were, but not enough to reflect on her part in breaking it. And me? I was starting to remember who I was before being mocked became background noise. By the end of the third day, I stood in front of Troy's mirror and didn't see a broken man. I saw a man choosing peace. And for the first time in years, that felt like power. For days after I walked out, her name flashed on my phone again. But this time, just one sentence. The house feels strange without you. No jokes. No deflection. Just that. I stared at the message for a while, thumb hovering over the screen. Troy was making pancakes behind me, humming off-key to some 90s R&B song. The contrast couldn't have been sharper. My friend dancing in a stained t-shirt while my wife sent digital echoes into a silence she helped build. Is she finally waving the white flag? Troy asked, peeking over my shoulder. More like sending a weather report. I muttered, strange without you doesn't sound like an apology. Troy raised an eyebrow. Still, she sounds less like a bulldozer today. She sounds lonely. I corrected. Not sorry. He slid a plate of pancakes toward me. Either way, she's feeling the absence. I took a bite. The syrup was cheap. Too sweet. But that morning, it tasted better than any gourmet meal Melissa ever made, with resentment baked into the silence. I didn't respond right away. I went for a walk instead. It was a cool morning, fog hugging the sidewalks, softening the city's edges. I let my thoughts drift, remembering how Melissa used to hum while folding laundry in our first apartment. The way she'd lean her head on my shoulder when we watched bad horror movies. The way we used to laugh. Back when we fought for each other instead of against each other. But those days felt like another life. Later that afternoon, I finally replied. I'm sure it does. That was all. She responded within a minute. I didn't think it would feel like this. Like what? I asked. Empty. Too quiet. I keep reaching for your coffee mug. It was oddly poetic, for her. But still no mention of what actually broke us. No accountability. No ownership. Just melancholy. When I showed Troy the exchange, he nodded slowly. She's feeling it, man. But she's still hoping sadness can replace responsibility. I laughed. Exactly. It's like she wants me to forget the kitchen, the laughter, the disrespect. Because now it's quiet and she's lonely. He tapped his spoon against his cereal bowl. That's not remorse. That's withdrawal. That night, we sat on the balcony with cheap beer and cheaper lawn chairs, watching the city lights flicker through the haze. I read her last message again. I miss who we were. And you know what? I didn't. I missed who I was before I had to defend decency like it was control. Before sarcasm replaced affection. Before friends turned into a tribunal. I missed the man who could breathe inside his own house. And that man was finally back. It was a gray afternoon. The kind where even the sky looks undecided. Rain had started falling in soft, steady taps against the windows. The kind that made the whole world feel slower, quieter. Troy was out getting groceries. I was half watching a rerun of some old crime show when the knock came. 3 soft taps. I didn't move at first. Something about it felt rehearsed. When I opened the door, there she was, Melissa. No makeup. Hoodie, jeans, hair tied back in a loose bun that looked hours old. She looked like someone who hadn't slept, but not in a dramatic way. Just tired. Human. For a moment, we both stood there, the rain framing her like some sad painting. Hey, she said, voice soft. I stepped aside. You want to come in? She nodded once and walked in slowly, as if the room might reject her. She didn't sit down, just stood near the counter, fingers loosely gripping the sleeves of her hoodie. I didn't want to text, she said. Not for this. I waited. She took a breath. I told Kara and Justine that I was thinking about patching things up with you. About wanting to talk. Really talk. Still, I said nothing. Her next words came out in a sigh. They laughed. Said I was being weak. That crawling back to you would make me look pathetic. I leaned against the back of the chair, arms crossed, and I told them I didn't care. That caught me slightly off guard. Her voice cracked just a little. Not for show. Not for pity. Just a crack. I haven't heard from them since, she added. Guess I broke the rules of the club. Guess so, I said quietly. She finally sat down across from me, pulled her sleeves over her hands like she used to when we talked late at night in bed, back when words weren't weapons. I don't know what I thought they'd say, but hearing them mock me for wanting to fix my marriage, she trailed off. It made me realize something. I tilted my head. What's that? They didn't want me happy. They wanted me divorced. Because then I'd be just like them, justified in our bitterness. There it was. Something real. Something uncoaked. I nodded slowly. So why come here? I don't know what I'm asking for, she admitted. Not yet. I just wanted to face you. I studied her for a moment. Her eyes didn't dart. Her voice didn't shake for effect. She was nervous, but not manipulative. And for the first time since this all started, I wasn't angry. I wasn't even waiting for an apology. I was just watching a woman who'd finally realized the echo chamber of her pride had gone silent. I didn't offer comfort, didn't move to hold her. I just said the only thing that felt honest. It's a strange feeling, isn't it? I asked. When the crowd disappears, and the only voice left is your own. She nodded. It's louder than I expected. I didn't say yes right away. Not to moving back in. Not to picking up where we left off. But 2 days after Melissa showed up at Troy's door, I agreed to meet her at the house. Neutral ground, familiar battlefield. I parked in the driveway like a visitor. Walked up the same steps I'd stormed down weeks ago. The key she once mocked no longer fit. She'd had it changed back, quietly, after we talked. A gesture, maybe. She opened the door before I knocked. No smile, no small talk. Just a quiet nod, and a step aside. The house felt like it had been holding its breath. Photos were still where I left them. My jacket still hung near the door. But something was different. It smelled like pine instead of lavender. Like the house had changed its scent too. We sat at the dining table. Just us. No wine. No distractions. Melissa cleared her throat. I've been thinking about that night, in the kitchen. About how quick I was to turn everything into a performance. She paused. I said nothing. I kept replaying your face. Not when you shouted. When you didn't. That quiet moment before you walked out. That's what stayed with me. Still I waited. She took a breath. I'm sorry. 2 words. No padding. No justifications. No but yous. Just the apology I hadn't realized I needed to hear out loud. I let my friends turn our problems into a punchline. I didn't defend you. Worse, I laughed along. I thought I was being strong. Independent. But I was just scared. Angry. Lazy, maybe. Her voice didn't crack this time. It stayed steady. And for once, she wasn't performing sadness. She was delivering truth. I leaned forward. So what do you want from me? I don't know, she said. I don't want to guilt you into coming back. I don't want to pretend this never happened. I just want to stop lying. To myself. To you. She reached into her pocket and placed something on the table. Her phone. Screen unlocked. Opened to her message thread with Kara. I scrolled. Saw the texts. Kara calling her desperate. Mocking her for crawling back. Ridiculing the idea of forgiveness. Then Melissa's reply. I'd rather be happy than right. I'd rather fix what I broke than cling to pride that didn't serve me. I looked at her. Why show me this? Because I don't want secrets anymore. I want you to see everything. We sat in silence. No tension now. Just wait. I'm not the same man who walked out that night. I said slowly. Not the laugh she used to weaponize around her friends. Not the brittle one layered in sarcasm. This one was softer. Warmer. Real. We didn't toast. We didn't cry. We just sat there. And it was enough. The respect I thought was gone wasn't dead. It had just been buried under layers of performance, pride, and noise. But the noise was gone now. And in its place was a new silence. Not cold. Not tense. Just peaceful. Later that night, as we washed dishes together, side by side, quietly, I looked at her, soap on her hands, sleeves rolled up, hair messy, and I said, "You know, I still don't care about short shorts." She smirked. "I threw them out." I raised an eyebrow. "All of them?" "Well," she said, nudging me with her elbow, "maybe I laminated one. Just in case." I grinned. "We'll negotiate." She nodded. "Together this time." That was the deal. No more silent punishments. No more groupthink judgment. Just two people, rebuilding the marriage they'd both nearly lost. Not by pretending the past didn't happen, but by finally learning from it.